Hey everyone, today is September 11th, 2011. 10 years have gone by since the horrible tragedies of September 11th, 2001. I'm doing this video as a tag video because I think it would be very interesting to hear other people's stories of what they remember from that day, where they were, how they heard about the horrible tragedies unfolding. If you were deeply affected by 9/11, whether it be actually being in New York or being in DC and actually seeing the events, or whether you had loved ones that were lost in the tragedies, my condolences are with you. This video is not intended to rehash painful memories for any of you watching that may have been affected by these tragedies. I just thought this would be an interesting idea to hear other stories of people's 9/11 experiences, whether you were there or whether you were watching it on TV. So I'm going to start with my story. On the morning of September 11th of 2001, I was asleep and I woke up to hearing one of the local newscasters doing a cut-in, when all of a sudden she stops and says, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry folks, but we have to go back to the Today Show. There's breaking news coming out of New York." So I lays around in bed for a couple of minutes and I get up and I go out and I ask my mom what's going on. And she says, well, a plane hit one of the World Trade Center towers in New York. And I'm like, oh wow, that's nuts. My initial reaction was, the pilot had a heart attack or something like that, lost control of the plane. The buildings are huge, so it would not be hard to miss one of them in that kind of scenario. So we're watching, and all of a sudden we see another plane come out of the right corner of the screen and circle around. And I kind of laugh and say, oh my goodness, look at this. These people are trying to get the money shot. They're trying to get as close as they can to the impact point so that they can get that money shot. And my mom gasps and says, oh my God, that plane is going to hit. And I literally had just enough time to say, no, it's not, before it hit. And then it changed. We all knew at that point that this was not coincidence. This was not a pilot losing control of a plane due to medical reasons or anything like that. This was an attack. So at the time, my dad worked out at one of our bases out here, and I called him at his office, and he had not made it into work yet, and I left him a voicemail saying, don't know if you're listening to the radio or not, but there's been an attack. Planes have hit the World Trade Center towers in New York City. Call us when you get to work. So my dad calls, and about that time, the Today Show had gone to one of their correspondents at the Pentagon. Mom was in the back bedroom talking with my dad on the phone, just reiterating what we knew at that point. And the guy at the Pentagon says, I don't want to alarm anybody, but I believe there's been an explosion at the Pentagon. So I run back and I tell my mom. She reiterates that to my father. And I come back out to the TV. And they go back after a few minutes, go back to the correspondent. And he says they think that it may have been road crews because there was road work being done, and that it may have been something like that. That he was going to check in further. They go back to him, and he says they think it may have been a bomb. So I go back to the back bedroom, reiterate that to my mom. She reiterates that to my father. And I come back out. The correspondent finally had made his way to where he could find out what was actually going on. And they go back to him, and he says a plane has struck the Pentagon. Then I got scared. So I run back into the back bedroom as fast as I could run, and I tell my mom, and I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs. It was a plane that hit the Pentagon. It was a plane. And so at that point, I had to go to work. I was working at our local Target. I was also working at the TV station that Mom had the TV on as well. And I had to work at Target, and I went into Target. People were buying out like the little emergency TVs and batteries so that they could keep track of what was going on while they were out and about. And I went on my lunch break, and I was talking with one of the other employees as we were waiting to order our food. And she says, "Did you hear about the other plane?" And I said, "Yeah, there was the one that hit the Pentagon." And she is, "No, there was another plane." And I'm like, oh my God. I finally got home, changed clothes real quick, and went to the TV station where I learned about the plane that went down in Pennsylvania. We went through the newscast, and at the end of the newscast, me and a group of my co-workers gathered together in the studio, arms around each other in a circle, and we just cried and prayed and cried and prayed. I remember it like it was yesterday. And when I went to New York in 2008, I went to Ground Zero. It was one of the major things that I wanted to do on my trip. And at that point, the fountains weren't done. They had just had the plans for the new tower that is being constructed right now. They have a little museum there with pictures from 9/11 and stories of people who survived. And the one thing I think that hit me the absolute most about being there was how close the other buildings were to the towers. It is just amazing. You see New York and on the TV, even when 9/11 happened, until you are there, you don't realize just how close those buildings are to each other. And I was just in shock. The t-shirt that I have on, I actually got from the museum in New York at Ground Zero. It was an incredible, incredible experience. Today I have been watching the History Channel and listening to stories of people who survived or people who perished. And I have been bawling my eyes out most of the day My friend Brent, who I worked with at the TV station a year after the attacks, made a video as a 9/11 tribute. I'm going to leave the link for that video in the description bar. Please go check it out. It is amazing. It brought me to tears. So now I want to hear your stories of what you remember from that day. This video, as I said at the beginning, is a tag video. I tag all of you. I think that, as I said before, I think that it'd be really interesting to see and hear other people's stories of what they were doing at that moment when they heard about the attacks and what they remember from that day. Thank you guys for watching. I'm looking forward to all of your responses. Bye.